Back up.
Disgraced former Congressman George Santos once again surrounded by a crush of cameras.
Back up.
Walking into a federal courthouse in Long Island, New York.
Back up, everybody. Back up.
Where inside he was sentenced to 87 months, more than 7 years in federal prison.
He told lie after lie until it caught up with him, until we caught up with him.
Santos, who sobbed before the judge out of the view of cameras, had pushed for the mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years after pleading guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft last summer.
I know that my actions have caused disappointment, frustration, and a loss of faith in me, and for that I'm truly sorry.
But prosecutors argued he was never truly remorseful for his actions, which included COVID relief fund fraud and credit card fraud.
He went so far as to seek out elderly people who suffered from cognitive impairment and dementia.
Pants on Fire.
Citing his recently launched podcast called Pants on Fire, which they called a tone-deaf effort to continue turning lies into dollars.
You know when I used to drink Appletinis? Back in 2009 when they were so relevant.
In 2023, Santos became just the 6th person to be expelled from the House of Representatives after serving his Long Island district for just over a year. A House Ethics Committee doing its own investigation, finding he used campaign contributions for personal expenses, including Botox treatments and payments to the adult website OnlyFans.
I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago.
From the outset, Santos's political career was riddled with lies and controversies, ranging from the mundane to the absurd.
Did I embellish my resume? Yes, I did. And I'm sorry.
From falsely claiming his mother died in the 9/11 terror attacks.
My parents were both down there the day of the attacks, and fortunately none of them passed.
To waving away claims he performed as a drag queen in Brazil.
I was young and I had fun at a festival.
After his departure from the halls of the Capitol.
My fellow Americans, it is I, George Santos, former congressman from the 3rd District of New York.
Santos pivoted to selling personalized videos on the website Cameo, claiming to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in profits.
Stop the deception!
But today, he had no words for reporters or protesters as he left the courthouse in silence.
Stop the deception!
Well, disgraced former New York Republican Congressman George Santos was just sentenced to more than 7 years in prison for federal wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Santos admitted to deceiving donors and stealing the identities of nearly a dozen people to fund his congressional campaign. He was expelled from the House in 2023. In addition to his prison sentence, Santos has agreed to pay $580,000 in penalties. NBC News correspondent Rahima Ellis is outside the courthouse on Long Island in New York for us today. So, Rahima, how does this sentence compare to what the defense and what prosecutors were ultimately asking for? Have we heard from Santos or his lawyers?
The defense was asking for the minimum, which is also a mandatory minimum of 2 years in prison for aggravated fraud charge. What turned out was the prosecution was asking for 87 months, 7 years. The maximum on all of this would have been 22 years in prison. So the prosecution did not go that far in what it was asking for, but it should be pointed out that they were very concerned that George Santos had not shown any remorse. What he did in this courthouse last summer when he pled guilty to 2 counts, that wire fraud and aggravated wire fraud and the other charge.
Hold on. Time out. Let's read this. So he reached a plea deal, okay? Now this is a Republican, former Republican, okay? Meaning that he held a position of power. He held what was supposed to be a position of notoriety and of status. He held this position, and while he was in this position, he committed these crimes. Keep that in mind as we go forward. Sentenced to 87 months in prison, that's 7 years. They tried to get him to only do a mandatory of 2 years. The maximum was 7. Now, she just said that the possible maximum was really 22 years that he could have possibly been indicted on, right? However, he was remanded to 7 years. Now, if you ask me, this motherfucker is getting off light. He pleaded guilty to wire fraud and identity theft charges. Wire fraud and identity theft charges as a Republican in a position of power. Okay. Admitted to all conduct charged that he's been charged with. So he admitted to everything. So it's not even a question of whether or not he did these things. It's not even a question. This dude is supposed to be a representative of one of the highest orders. He's supposed to be a representative of the office, right? Of the Oval Office. And he committed these crimes while being a representative. He admitted to all the conduct. They said he's going to pay over $500,000 worth. I don't even fucking believe that shit, because where are they going to get the money from? Sure, they're going to seize assets like they did the mayor of Detroit. Like I'm sure they're going to do the CFO of Detroit that I just did in my last video. I'm sure they're going to seize all his assets and try to get the money through his assets or whatever it is that he owned and anything else that he had that was valuable. However, I don't believe that whatever they're able to get is going to make up for all of the money that he's stolen, the identity theft that he committed to. And above all else, I think that we need to make an example out of people like George Santos. I think that if you are in a position, if you are representing the House, you need to be held to higher standards than everybody else, which means if you get caught up in something like this, then your charges should be miles and miles more. The book of the law and the letter of the law, the gavel should come down on you 10 times harder than it would an ordinary citizen, because you were supposed to be a representative. I think that they should have cooked George Santos for the possible maximum of. They should have given him every bit of those 22 years. Get your goofy ass out of here. Then they said in court they were thinking about the 2 years. But then while he was there, this motherfucker was standing up there showing no remorse whatsoever for all the shit that he had done that was egregious. So they said, all right, we'll give you 7. That's still light to me. Bitch, you need to be doing all of the years. You a representative of the House. The hell we talking about? The gavel needs to come down on you the hardest. And I believe it should be that way across the board. Anybody that is a public figure, that has taken up a position that's supposed to be of notoriety and respect, that's police officers, army men, Democrats, Republicans, senators, all of y'all should be held to a higher standard than everybody else, because that's the position that you took. This is some bullshit.
He told the court that he was remorseful, but then his actions seemed to prove differently. I want to play a little bit of sound from a witness that was in the courtroom today who testified for the prosecution. And this is from the State Labor Commission, who's saying that the people that were defrauded really are still hurting from the crimes that George Santos committed. Take a listen.
This is not a victimless crime. This impacts the people standing to my right. This impacts people trying to get their benefits from the unemployment insurance offices. It impacts businesses who pay into the trust fund. And more than anything else, it tends to destroy the people's faith in government.
Should point out the defense had admitted that George Santos was a liar and a fraudster. The judge said, I have sympathy for him, but I don't like the fact that, and I don't like sending people to prison, but you seem to be a bright man, but you are fully deserving of the sentence. She sentenced him to 87 months. He is expected to surrender on July 25th, and we should be pointing out that once that sentence was handed down, George Santos cried. Nikki?
Rahima, we know that in a television interview last night, Santos talked about the possibility of a pardon from President Trump. What did he say, and is that a real possibility?
We don't know if it's a possibility. Based on the people whom the president has pardoned in the past, including those from the January 6th case that went on, Santos says he has not asked the president for a pause, and in that interview last night he said the same. But he said, looking if there was an opportunity for the president to pardon him, he certainly would accept it.
Of course. Who the fuck wouldn't accept it? Who wouldn't accept a pardon from the President of the United States? Of course, that's a no-brainer. Of course he would accept it. My question is, why the hell would they give him a pardon? Who the hell would offer...
today at around 6...
Shut up. Who the hell would offer that goofball a pardon for anything? You're a criminal. You're a criminal in the eyes of the law, and you're a criminal in the eyes of the public. Why would anybody offer you a pardon? You were already in a position of authoritative power. You were already in a position I'm pretty sure that was in the top or upper echelon of top earners in the United States of America. He wasn't making pennies. You were already getting money. You were already at a higher status than most people. Why the fuck should you get a pardon? Hell no. I believe that the punishment should fit the crime. He defrauded these people, multiple people. He intentionally defrauded the elderly because he knew that they were the targets that he would probably be able to get away with this shit with, right? Because the elderly are the most vulnerable. And a lot of times it takes the elderly a lot longer to notice or to recognize that something is wrong with their finances than it does, a person who is at least sound mind. So he purposely chose to single out and target elderly people during his run of egregious shit. Why in the world would we pardon him? Hell no. Sentence him to give him the max of everything. His weird looking ass. Anyway, drop a comment down below. I just wanted to give y'all another episode of Smoked. And we're going to keep them coming. We're going to keep them coming. Lock all of these motherfuckers up. They dirty as hell. Lock them up. And we talking about somebody who's probably been privileged all his fucking life. Lock this motherfucker up. Get him out of here. Drop a comment down below. I'll see you on the next one.